Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
Good evening and welcome to Let's Go Green with myself, Zoe Ryan, sitting in for Aisling O'Rourke again tonight. On tonight's show, we have a bit of a theme.
She's electric.
That's right, in the wake of Christmas, inspired by some of the most popular gift choices this year, as well as the activities we found ourselves predominantly engaging in over the past few days. We'll be discussing electric cars, electronic devices, streaming services, and the impact they have on the environment. Bet that last one is a little puzzling to you. And initially, it was for me too. But we'll get to that a little later on. Up first, cars have long been a popular present choice at Christmas, with this year being no different. It has been reported that various Hot Wheels sets, the Monster Jam, Smash and Bash Gravedigger, looks a little bit like a monster truck for those of you unaware, a spin and stunt remote control car, to name a few, were amongst the top selling children's toys and most commonly received Santa gifts this Christmas. But what about the adults? A lot of you may have had electric scooters, perhaps electric bikes on your wish list, but no doubt some of you will have forfeited such an expense in light of wanting to upgrade your car in the new year. I'm joined now in studio by Seamus Malone, Sales Director at Fitzpatrick's Garage in Tullamore, to discuss electric cars, or EVs. Seamus, the start of the year has traditionally always brought with it a surge in car sales, and over the past number of years, the number of electric car purchases has increased globally and nationally. Is that a trend you've witnessed locally in the Midlands? Are more people opting for EVs over your traditional petrol, diesel or even hybrid vehicles?
It certainly is, Zoe, and thanks first off for having me up here today. The rise in electric vehicles and plug-in electric vehicles has been astronomical over the last number of years. If you think back 10 to 15 years ago, realistically, diesel was the only show in town. But to give you an idea, for 2025, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle sales are up 53%. A lot of people would see plug-in hybrids as a gateway to their electric experience. So as opposed to them going directly from maybe a petrol or diesel car into a full electric, they're saying, well, if I go plug-in hybrid this time, I can plug it in, but I also have my fuel.
Yeah.
And typically the people who have bought those even back in 2022 and 2023 are now coming back and making their full transition over to
so it's like a stepping stone, the hybrid.
It is a stepping stone. And then electric sales this again for 2025 are up 39% year on year.
Okay, so still high.
Still quite high, and at the same time you're seeing diesel sales starting to slip back.
Right.
Diesel sales are back 23% this year on 2024 figures. So yes, the trend is continuing in that direction.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think more and more people are making that switch from your, as you say, your traditional, your petrol and diesel to the hybrids and electrics?
Again, there's a number of factors. I suppose as the electric cars become more visible on the roads, people get used to the idea of seeing them. Invariably, they know a family member or a neighbour who has already purchased an electric car, and there may be an initial apprehension or nervousness, but that quite quickly dissolves when their neighbour says, no, I'm driving one, I like it, it's fine, I'll bring you for a drive in it. I think sometimes when new technologies come out, there are a certain cohort of people who straight away want it, and there's other people who are a little bit more apprehensive and say, no, this is what I've always done and I want to continue to do it, and they take just a little bit more persuasion to come around to the way of doing it, you know.
You touched on it there about the apprehension. I definitely feel like when the electrics, even the hybrids, when they first came on the market, people who were the traditional petrol and diesel drivers, there was a lot of things that they didn't like about it. It was looking at maybe the size of the car, the design, how long were they going to get out of it in between plugging it in, even just down to the feel of it. A lot of people just like the feeling of a petrol or a diesel car. But I think a lot of those things that maybe deterred people originally, they've changed now. The style of it, the look of it, the mileage you get out of it, all that has changed, and it's making it more attractive to people to go to the electrics.
That's certainly true. So initially when some of the cars came out in sort of 12 to 14 years ago, batteries were quite small, so you had a range of maybe 100 to 140 kilometres. Now I am driving a Hyundai Ioniq 9 at the moment. It's a big 7-seater Jeep, and it has an official range over 600 kilometres.
Right.
So there's very, very few people will do more than 600 kilometres in any given day. So people don't have that nervousness that they did have. And I suppose sometimes when I think about it as a consumer as well, and yes, you're right, there was an initial resistance to change, and I sort of think maybe when petrol and diesel engines start coming out, the person with the horse and cart go, will that engine last as long as my last horse did?
Of course, yeah, you're always comparing.
So I think it's the human phenomenon is to say, yes, we like that idea, but let's let somebody else try it out first.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Now there's a significant cohort who have done it, and as I said to you earlier on, everybody at this point knows somebody with an electric car and is happy to say, yes, this is good. I think what was interesting this year is in July, of the 9 new EVs we sold, 7 were repeat customers or already had an EV with a sibling or were very close to one.
Interesting.
So that just goes to show that the people who have EVs are quite happy with them.
Yeah, as you said, there's always the early adopters to any new technology. So as you said, those people have tried them out, and now it's more the masses are coming to the electrics. But do you feel that the Midlands, is it well equipped for this rise in electric car users? If we even look at public charging points, are we well equipped in the Midlands for people to be having electric cars?
As regards public charging points, there's certainly room for improvement. In Tullamore, for example, we have some in the Tanyard, we have some up at the railway station. There are a significant bank going in the car park in Woodies.
Right.
We have close to us here in Kilbeggan, out on the motorway near Moat. But the one thing is that, yes, that will improve and it needs to improve. But for most people, they actually charge at home. In excess of 95% of charging is done on home chargers, where A, the rate is better, and B, it's done at your own convenience when you're asleep invariably with a cheaper electric rate. So yes, we do need a better public infrastructure. For example, people maybe in apartment living and things like that. Whereas it's very easy for somebody who has their own, be it semi-D or a driveway where they can charge their own
driveway.
Car. So there needs to be something done as regards investment in a network. But 95% of the time, that's the critical point. Charging is done at home.
And what incentives are there for people in the line of, we'll say, grants, etc., for them to go to electric?
Okay. For a private individual, the cars are subsidised to the tune of €3,500. There's an SCAI grant of €3,500 for somebody buying a new EV. There's a grant for installing a charger at your house of €300, which is quite good as well. For companies then, companies can avail of accelerated capital allowances, which means they can write off a big percentage of the value of the car in the first 12 months. For company car drivers, it's the lowest level of BIK that you will pay. You will pay a lot more to drive an equivalent petrol or diesel car. So the incentives are there.
Like, what is it that makes a hybrid, or more so the electrics, the EVs? Why are they attractive to people? What are the pros and cons of them? Okay,
well, in terms of pros, the cars are very, very smooth. So if you compare it to a petrol or diesel car, where initially you start in the morning, the engine needs to warm up to get heat into the car, because again, it's electric. It's instantaneous. They're quite comfortable. They're very, very reliable because you have less moving components. Some people might point to maybe teething problems that some of the car companies had initially with the new technology. That's 4, 5, 6 years old. Now they're excellently reliable. If you look, for example, most of the car companies will give a longer warranty on their battery than they will their engines. In Hyundai, for example, we have an 8-year, 160,000 kilometre warranty on the new battery. So that's a phenomenal warranty when you think about it. If the car company or the manufacturer is willing to stand over it for that long, realistically, the customer hasn't really anything to fear.
And you mentioned there about repeat customers, so people who they have been driving EVs for some time, they're coming back and they're getting new ones. What is the second-hand market like for EVs at the moment?
It's quite good at the moment. If we go back again to 2024, there was a bit of flux in the market.
I recall that.
There had been sort of a correction of new car values coming out of COVID. Again, prices were higher when the technology was newer. Prices of new EV cars start to come down, so that obviously had a knock-on effect on used cars, and people didn't really know where the stability would be. So from sort of this time last year, where we would have had quite a number of EVs in stock, they start selling quite well from the first quarter of this year, to the point where we've probably the lowest numbers used EVs locally, if I look around the other garages' websites, that we have had in a number of years. So second-hand EVs are now selling.
I'm conscious that we've been discussing hybrids. For anyone who maybe isn't familiar with, there's just maybe going, I'm not exactly sure the difference between a hybrid and a fully electric. Could you explain to us the difference between the two?
Well, I'll even expand on that. You have three really main things. You have hybrid, you have plug-in hybrid, and then you have electric. So a hybrid car works on the principle that you have an engine and a relatively small battery, maybe 2 to 3 kilowatts. So when the car is freewheeling or coming up to a junction or a roundabout and you're gently braking, it's replenishing the battery. So it's using a bit like a dynamo on a bike years ago. It's actually taking your momentum, it's converting that kinetic energy and putting it back in the battery. And when you're taking off from the roundabout or the traffic lights or whatever it is, it uses the battery either on its own or to help the engine to take off, so you're not solely dependent on fuel.
Yes.
The plug-in hybrid then is the next generation. So it typically would have a battery size of about 14 to 18 kilowatts. Because of the size of that battery, you're not going to charge it fully based on the regeneration or the fuel in the car. So you plug it in at night. And again, depending on the model that you go for, you'll get anywhere from maybe 50 to 80 kilometres driving, which for a lot of people is their daily commute.
Yeah, it's sufficient.
So, but you still have petrol in your tank, i.e. the hybrid element of it. Now, it will still replenish. Some people think that the plug-in hybrid won't self-charge, but it will also self-charge.
Okay.
So I would have drivers who are down as low as 1.9 litres per 100 kilometres because they plug in and they use both. It again takes away the fear that some people would have of, what if I forget to charge it? Well, if you forget to charge it, you're using more fuel. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but hey, you can still go.
You've something in reserve.
And then obviously you go to your full electric car, and for example the car that I came up in here today is a Hyundai Inster that has a 49 kilowatt battery that can travel about 360 kilometres, up to the car I mentioned to you earlier on, the Ioniq 9 with a 110 kilowatt battery where I can go over 600 kilometres. So there are electric cars there for everybody. Initially when the electric cars came out, they were sort of, Tesla was the first big example. Okay, so you had cars for 80, 90, 100,000. They were an expensive luxury item. Out
of most people's reach.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whereas nowadays you're back down to the car outside I can sell for €22,000. So it's quite affordable. It's electric, it has heated seats, it has heated steering wheels, all the things that previously were on a 45 or 50,000 euro car, but they're now in a car that people like yourself, for example, might decide that's going to be my first car, or it's my school run car.
Yeah.
You know, so electric cars are becoming a lot more affordable for people.
More accessible, as you were saying.
Completely accessible, yes.
You mentioned that you're an electric car owner yourself. Obviously, you get to test drive a lot of them out in the dealership, but you actually have one yourself. So, as someone who is a driver of them, what would you say to people? Why would you encourage people to make that change?
I suppose I'd encourage them on a couple of levels. I suppose one of the things is we're doing the right thing environmentally.
Of course.
Fossil fuels, we can't sustain the way we have been doing things. We just won't have the petrol or the diesel there to drive it. So, okay, with renewable energy, which we're getting better at, it's the best way to charge the car, particularly for city driving. We've all experienced sitting on the quays in Dublin, for example, or in some of the big European capitals, and you're almost choking because the bus next to you is putting out a lot of heavy emissions. So for our own health, for the and everything else, that's one of the major reasons. But ultimately, most of us vote with our pocket too.
Yeah.
You know, it's very noble to say, yes, I'll do this for the environment and everything like that. But ultimately, it's at what financial cost. And when you sit back and you look at the figures, you quite quickly realise, yes, this makes a lot of sense. Particularly, for example, in our house, we would have installed solar panels a number of months ago. So over a period of 2 years, we've gone from a diesel car to a plug-in hybrid to now full electric, and haven't looked back. And our running costs are a fraction of what they would have been previously.
Seamus, what are your predictions for 2026? Do you see this trend of EVs being popular? Do you see that continuing, or do you think a change is on the rise?
I think the EV growth will still happen because there are so many more variants coming on the market. So, for example, if I look in our own company, we have within Hyundai, whereas 3 years ago we had 2 electric models, now we have 5. You look at the bigger companies, like say for example Mercedes, Smart, another franchise that we hold, the MG franchises, there's so much more choice that wasn't there a number of years ago. So the car companies aren't going to manufacture all these cars. They've done lots and lots of research. They know that the market is there for them. If it wasn't, they wouldn't produce it. So yes, I think the EV phenomenon will continue, and it's all down to choice. So up until recently, people were coming in and they weren't looking for really the used EV because they knew it probably wasn't there. The numbers were small. Okay, they might look for a hybrid, but typically they almost knew they didn't have a choice. Whereas now, in the last 18 months, we're starting to see people coming in and they're saying that they would like to have a hybrid, they would like to have a plug-in hybrid, they would like to have an EV. And increasingly they're realising they don't need to buy a diesel because maybe they're not doing sufficient mileage. The one huge thing that people are really coming in looking for is automatics. And hybrids and electrics are automatic anyway. So that's a part of it. And because there's not much choice in the automatic car, if we go back 5 years, the percentage of automatics we sold was a lot smaller. Now, because people want automatics for the convenience of driving, they're going, well, that means I'm buying an EV or a hybrid. So the auto factor almost leads it.
Of course, yeah. So that's driving the sales that way because they're going for one thing that coincidentally is more in that market. Yes,
indeed. And if you look, 75% of new vehicles registered in the country this year were automatic. If you go back to probably 2019, 2020, that percentage would have been around 30 to 35%.
So you feel that our electric future is bright?
Very bright.
Seamus, if anyone is listening and they are thinking, do you know what, I think it is time maybe to make the move, whether it's to, as you said, that in-between of the hybrid or going fully electric. Like anything, a car is obviously a big investment. It's not something you're going to buy into lightly. So people want to be doing their research. If someone wants to find out more about the hybrid and the EV landscape, where can they find out more information about that?
Well, I suppose the primary source would be, for example, the websites of the car company or the car that they might be interested in. Certainly locally, I'm more than happy to give anybody any advice that they might like. So I suppose we're in a unique position here in Fitzpatrick's and Tullamore with the Hyundai brand. We still have diesel, we have hybrid, we have regular petrol, we have full electric cars. So I'm more than happy for anybody to drop into the garage, and even if we don't have what they particularly want, to give them a little bit of time to point them the direction, or visit our website, fitzpatricksgarages.ie. I suppose we were National EV Dealer of the Year twice already, in 2022 and 2024. Here in Offaly, we've been EV Dealer of the Year by SEAI standards for the last 3 years. So we know what we're talking about. We're 75 years in business this year. So we're trusted, and anybody wants to know anything, we're more than happy to help them out.
Yeah, and as you said, you can give that kind of knowledge of a wide range of the areas. It's not that you're pushing people towards one or the other. You can say, well, look, let's compare it. Let's look at what you're used to. Let's look at what we have on offer and see where you land.
Yes, it's all about choice, and we're more than happy to give people the information, and based on the information we give them, that's their choice after that.
Seamus, it has been a pleasure as always.
Zoe, great to catch up.
Now, from one electric to another, if you own a smartphone, iPad, tablet, laptop, items few of us can live without nowadays, you'll want to stay tuned for what's coming next.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
It is Let's Go Green on Midlands 103 with Zoe Ryan. Last week we spoke about the proper disposal of items typically left around our houses following the annual celebrations. Wrapping paper, soiled tinfoil and so on. And today, if we look at the list of most popular Christmas gifts, from singing stitch dolls to earbuds, they have something in common, an electronic component. But what happens when it comes to out with the old, in with the new? Where is out? How should we be disposing of these items for the good of the environment and public safety? To help us with that one is Managing Director of Clean Ireland Recycling, Brian Lyons. Brian, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Brian, it's been reported in the media lately that there has been a rise in fires at waste transfer stations and recycling facilities across the country, caused by the likes of your batteries, vapes and electronics being put into household waste, into skips, even into street bins. Firstly, how can disposing of those type of items in those disposal units cause a fire? And why do you think people are doing it?
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. So we've kind of launched a campaign in this area, and we have seen a rise, certainly in the last year or two, of batteries or electronic or electrical equipment ending up in the waste streams that we collect, whether that's the household wheelie bins, commercial wheelie bins, or skips or skip bags. And I suppose we can only really put it down to what we're kind of calling the cordless revolution. As you know, over the last number of years, everything nearly has a battery now that once had a plug or a cord. And perhaps a lot of these items are maybe coming to end of life, but I think there's just more of them being placed on the market. So I suppose our campaign is really about the do's and the don'ts and the whys. And to answer your question, so obviously the don't is we don't want anybody to put batteries or items that could contain batteries, any sort of electronic equipment, into those waste streams. And we want people to bring them back to their local nearest approved return point. And these return points would typically be your county council, civic community site, bring centre, electrical retailers, or indeed where you bought the item. And there's two very good websites, if I could mention them, please. WeIreland.ie, that's WEEE Ireland.ie. They have a very good interactive map. And the government information website is called mywaste.ie. So you can put in your location there and you can find the nearest place to bring them back. So why are they a problem, or how do they cause a problem to us? So batteries, they're inherently safe. We've been using them for years. But when they come into the waste streams we collect, our trucks are typically compaction trucks. And our equipment in our transfer stations are grabs and loaders and things like that. They will damage the battery. Now, we don't know that the items are there. So the battery could get damaged, crushed or pierced. And that causes a short circuit. And if there's charge in the battery, then that causes a sudden release of heat and energy and flame. And that's typically what we see. Right. We've seen a sharp rise in bin truck fires, certainly over the last while. And just on the batteries, the batteries, Zoe, that we're all used to, the household battery, the AA and AAA. They've been around forever, and we need to dispose of them correctly. In fact, most of the retail shops have like blue boxes where you can return them to.
Yes, yeah.
But battery technology has changed and evolved over the last number of years. They're getting smaller and more powerful. Lithium-ion battery technology is probably the most dangerous when it comes into our waste streams. Now, these are the types of batteries that power your phone, your tablet, power tools, e-bikes, e-scooters. It's the same one that powers your electric car, actually.
Right.
Huge energy in them. A huge energy density, and release a huge amount of energy if short-circuited. So that they're the types of items that we're seeing. So obviously, from a safety point of view, we need to protect the lives of our people operating our trucks and in our facilities, and indeed the public. So fire safety, very, very important. But the other why as to why we should do this is inside these batteries and electronic components, there's quite a lot of rare earth minerals, you know, and there's a lot of energy given to harvesting these minerals in the first place. But if they're brought back to the approved return points, handled the correct way by the compliance schemes in Ireland, Ireland being one of them, these rare earth minerals can actually be reused again for the manufacture of new products. So that's very important from a recycling point of view.
And the thing is, as you said there, most of these items and the batteries that are in them, they can be returned quite easily and cost effectively to so many different outlets. But do you think one of the main reasons why people maybe aren't disposing of them correctly is, one, convenience? It's handier to throw it into your bin that's in your house. But also, do you think people have a perception that there's a cost involved with getting rid of these electrical goods in the proper way? Because that's not actually the case. As you said, anywhere that you purchase a battery from, they actually can take them back. And then we see that there's a lot of different schemes in place as well with electrical shops where you can return items to them and they will dispose of them correctly.
Yeah, so just to be clear on that, there is absolutely no charge to return any batteries or electrical equipment if brought to the return points. It's a compliance scheme set up by the government where the producers of these items that put these items on the market have to cover the cost of their recycling.
Yes.
So there's no cost. So if you go to a county council civic amenity site, if you're just going with electrical equipment, there is no charge. Now, if you're bringing other mixed wastes and other materials, they might charge you. But for electrical items and batteries, there is no charge. And to be fair to the public, and I think, I don't think a lot of people are deliberately doing this. It's just maybe a lack of awareness and education on what they can do, And I suppose that's really what we're trying to do, is raise this awareness and to just get people to... The message is, you can't put it into your wheelie bin or your skip, so seek out where you can go with it, So that's what we're trying to do, is to raise awareness. And it is certainly working. We've had quite a lot of engagement from our customers, both householders and businesses, and which is very, very, very positive, to be honest.
Let's go through some of those common items then that people maybe in the wake of Christmas, they're looking around and they're going, I have a lot of things here that need to be gotten rid of and disposed of properly. People have a lot of different items in their house at the moment that are battery operated, especially with Christmas. A lot of the ornaments, they're battery operated. People might have sets of lights sitting around as well. They can't go into your general waste in your house. They have to be disposed of. So as you said, batteries, they can be returned to any shop that does actually sell batteries. They generally have that facility there. Your light bulbs then, where can people drop those off? Your
electrical retailer that would sell light bulbs.
Okay.
The county council civic amenity sites, they're a real catch-all because they kind of accept everything.
Okay.
If it has a plug or a cord or a battery, or if it's electrical in any shape or form, they have the infrastructure in place to receive all of those items. So they're a very good asset. And we have, they're in every county. It'd be nice to see more of them. And there are some private civic amenity sites that would accept that material as well. But anything on those two websites I mentioned, it's highlighted what they take back at each of those locations. Yes. There's a lot of items out there as well that it's not obvious that there's a battery in them.
Absolutely.
They have an embedded battery that you can't really remove. And I'm just going to give an example. I don't know if you saw the piece RTE did with us there, where one of our blue trailers was on fire and they were extinguishing it.
Right.
When they combed through the material afterwards, they found the culprit for that was a TV box. So your TV box, it's plugged into the wall, it's plugged into your TV. You wouldn't assume there was a battery in it.
No, because there's a plug.
Because there's a plug.
Yeah.
But it turns out there's a memory battery in it, I presume, to keep the time while it's plugged out or whatever. And that was actually the battery that caused that trailer fire, Yeah. So, and another simple thing, that one now is quite obscure, but something else, like if you have to plug it in to charge it, there's a battery in it. So the message, I suppose, is simple. If it's electronic or electrical in any way, shape or form, not into your typical waste bin or waste skip, and to return it to these other points.
You mentioned there about the free take-back services that retailers, it was brought into legislation a number of years ago, where you can return these items to where you bought them or other retailers even. So talk us through what the conditions are in which you can return, say the likes of your kettle or your toaster, and you want to bring that back to a retailer. What's the kind of rules and regulations around that? Is it that it has to be you're buying a new like for like and you can return the old one? Is no purchase needed? Do you have to bring back a receipt? What are the conditions around that?
Yeah, some electrical retailers are better than others, is my understanding, to be honest. So, some of them, push it and advertise it, and they have the take-back cages and boxes out in front of shops, so it's very obvious. But what we would like to see, actually, and we're working actually very collaboratively with the department, We Ireland, the local authority sector at national level. What we would like to see, but it might need a change in the legislation, is that, if you sell batteries or electric equipment, you should be obliged to take back any type of battery or electrical equipment, But certainly, if you're buying a kettle and you bring back your old one, that store will most certainly take it back from you. Electrical retailers are quite good now, to be fair.
Your bigger electrical items, the likes of, say, a freezer or a fridge. Say if you're buying a new freezer and you contact who you're buying it from, when they're delivering the new one, you can actually arrange for them to take the old one away and they'll handle the disposal of that.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And that's typically what happens when the new fridge or washing machine or dishwasher is being delivered. They will take it back to their store, and then the National Compliance Scheme will arrange for the collection from them, and there is no charge for that. So, don't be afraid. If you're buying an electronic or electrical item, make sure and ask the retailer that you're buying it off, say that you're expecting them to take back your old one.
Yes.
And that is what happens typically. But if you don't do that, for whatever reason, your county council civic community site, they will also receive it from you.
Yeah, because I think myself, that would be what strikes me as the main reason why people maybe are incorrectly or improperly disposing of such items. It's that they don't know the right channels to bring them to. They're not aware of this. And they also, as I said, might be fearing that there's high fees that, you call the local removal man to come and take away your big fridge or freezer, and there's a fee involved, and they're going, I don't have the finances. So maybe that's why people are turning to dispose of them in ways that they shouldn't. But as you said, there are proper channels to do it that don't have a fee involved.
No, you should never have to pay. Nobody should ever pay to properly dispose of batteries or electrical or electronic equipment. That is a fact. So it's the electrical retailers, it's where you bought it, or the civic amenity sites. No, there is no charge for that.
Brian, thank you so much for giving me your time to talk about this topic this evening.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
And you can go to www.weireland.ie. That is We Ireland with 3 E's. So www.weeireland.ie for a full list of We Ireland recycling locations and for advice on safe disposal of such electronic items. There's also a breakdown of local locations where you can dispose of those items listed on your local county council's website. Up next, do you still have a DVD player in your house? Because it might be time to take it out of retirement. More on that after this.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You are listening to Let's Go Green with Zoe Ryan on Midlands 103. Traditional TV viewing figures always go up at this time of the year, with a lot of broadcasters, so the likes of RTE, Virgin Media, putting on content they know will draw a crowd, like your favourite Christmas movie, as well as Christmas special episodes of popular TV series. In fact, this year, Netflix really gave traditional broadcasters a run for their money for viewing figures by releasing episodes from the final season of Stranger Things on Christmas Day. But for the most part, a lot of us will have engaged in predominantly watching content on streaming services, Netflix, Prime, Disney Plus, and so on, over the Christmas break. But a few weeks ago, I was in a track store, those shops that sell CDs, video games, camera bits. And as I was waiting for the item I was looking for to be retrieved from the storeroom, I found myself gazing at the second-hand DVD section, and after experiencing many a disheartening evening not finding a particular film I was in the mood to watch across the multiple streaming services I pay monthly for, I thought to myself, you know what? I might buy myself a DVD player or root out the one that I know is somewhere in the attic, which I said to the girl working in the shop when she returned. And she said to me, you know what, we are seeing an increase in DVD sales, and that planted the seed. So I took to the streets to ask people, do you think DVDs are making a comeback? And this is what they had to say.
Yes, I certainly do. I have about 400 DVDs. 200 of them is all cartoon films, which I show to my nieces and nephews when they come down. They're only young, and ones they never heard of, Snow White, all those, Cinderella, and they love them. So I'm all for DVDs. Bring them on.
For me, no. I probably stream most of mine, but I know my mum still has the combi player with the DVD and the VHS, and she plays all the old videos for the grandkids when they're up. If your Wi-Fi is gone, you can't use anything. So I suppose where you had the DVD players, it was handy. You could throw something on. But we depend so much on Wi-Fi. Even the phones, you'd be lost without internet.
Absolutely. I work here in CEX in Tullamore, and I suppose last year we were looking to get rid of the DVDs and put them all into a warehouse and not take any more. But since then, we've seen a huge uprising. I think people are going back a lot more to physical media. We see a lot of second-hand games selling as well, but particularly the movies, especially around Christmas time, they're selling out the door. They're running out the door. So we also buy them as well. So when you're finished with them, you can get them back in here, and we'll do circular economy. So they're absolutely making a comeback.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think people are going back to DVDs in an age of streaming?
I think there's a little barrier to entry with streaming. You have to have the latest things and a subscription. Whereas if you want to watch a movie, it's only a few euro here. We have a €1 DVD section here in CEX, and it's very popular because a lot of people just go there and pick out a bunch of DVDs and they have their weekend sorted. Everyone has a DVD player or an old PS4 that can run the DVDs. So I think people are looking to get back to their roots and, get back to the basics. I mean, I struggle with bad internet in my house, so there's a lot of barriers to the streaming. The infamous dodgy box, they rely on internet hugely. Whereas if you have a DVD, you kind of have it forever.
Probably not. I don't think I haven't heard anyone buy one any time of late anyway.
Oh yes, most definitely. And even you can see people going around picking up DVDs and CDs is coming back too. But they're real. I know we can stream them all now and they're all up there on various different platforms, but I think it's actually having it in their hand and seeing the cover, seeing the whole thing about it. And more in some of in those shops now, you'll see DVD players out to the front, the CD players out to the front. The vinyl player now is out to the front. Now, I have a DVD player. I'd have to go looking for it, but I do know I have one. I've loads of DVDs from going back to years, and I would have gathered the films and bits and pieces of concerts and stuff over the years. So yeah, it's lovely to have them.
No, I don't think DVDs are making a comeback because everyone else has stream services. DVDs and stuff get destroyed easily and lost easily, so once you have it on the TV, it's always there, whereas a CD you'd lose so.
I don't think so, no, because today on the internet you can find anything you want, since music, videos, films, anything, you just go to YouTube and you find anything you need, and you can take from yourself,
Yeah, I think they are. For even simple fact with my telly, if my internet goes, I have nothing. I've no telly, I've no phone, I've nothing. But if you have a DVD, you can actually still sit there and watch programs, telly. You have loads of DVDs.
Yeah, I hope so. I think there's something comforting in having a collection of DVDs and being able to pick one out rather than just flicking through a TV screen.
And then same as not finding something that you're looking for online, it's not there. Even with Netflix, they're pulling Friends off, that's going to a different program service that I wouldn't have. But if you have the box set there, it's in front of you, you can watch it whenever you want.
I think there's something special about owning a piece of media rather than it belonging to someone else and you just choosing it.
Yeah. So yeah, overall I think it should be, it is coming back, and I think it's better.
Now, you might be asking yourself, what has this got to do with the Green Show? Surely the production of DVDs is bad for the environment. And you would be right to think so, but online streaming isn't as clean as you may think, which got me thinking, should we be purchasing second-hand DVDs rather than financing streaming services? Something I'll be exploring after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
It is Let's Go Green with Zoe Ryan, where we have been asking the question, are DVDs making a comeback? And before the break, you will have heard a compilation of local voices giving their thoughts on the subject. And to my surprise, the majority of you said yes, DVDs are making a comeback, or at least should be. But what are the experts saying? Joining me now to weigh in on the conversation is technology journalist Adrian Weckler of the Irish Independent. Adrian, what is your opinion on the matter? Are DVDs making a comeback?
No, they're not, Zoe, unfortunately, because for people like me who really enjoyed our Friday weekend trips to Extravision to plan an evening or a weekend around an event such as watching a movie rather than just sitting down in front of the TV and scrolling for 20 minutes and decide what to watch. This is a shame. The data, the sales figures for Ireland show at best a very small uptick in the interest in DVDs through the likes of HMV or Tower Records or Eason's, but generally speaking you won't find most normal shops selling DVDs. Most people who have a DVD player or DVDs in their house, they're still hanging around, and they're not throwing them out, but they would rarely actually watch one of the DVDs.
Yes.
So unfortunately there isn't actually a DVD revival going on, and as long as broadband keeps rolling out in much, much higher speeds as it is at the moment, by the end of this time next year, the National Broadband Plan will have finished. Every single premises in the country will have access, if they want it, to fibre broadband. And that really means that the likes of Netflix or Disney or Apple TV will probably take over even more.
That was one of the reasons given for why people find that they do turn to their DVD player, is that unpredictability of the Wi-Fi connection. But as you said, that year on, year out is improving, and that people should find that a day comes where that isn't an issue about the broadband. But another barrier that people said, or more so a preference, was that they like the security of having the physical DVD in their hand, that they can go to the film, they can go to the series. Because something that we regularly see with the streaming services is that they will pull a programme or a film from their library, maybe sell it to another streaming service that you don't have. Or I often find that they're not on any of the streaming services. I'll have evenings where I'm going to look for a film or a certain programme. It's not on one of the streaming platforms. It's on the likes of your Google Film or your YouTube TV, and you have to go and pay for it additionally there. So do you think that's one of the reasons why people are maybe entertaining the notion of going back to DVDs, is because they're not finding what they want on the streaming services?
I don't know. I think that if you look in your situation, if you're hunting for a film, you can find it on Netflix or Paramount or Amazon or Apple TV or Mubi or wherever, and you went on to your YouTube or to your Apple TV rental or one of the online rentals, maybe you would find it there, and once you download it, you do actually get to keep it. You could rent it for €4 or €5, €6, or you can buy it for €10 or €15 or €20. If you're buying a new DVD, it's probably not much cheaper than that. Like if you're buying a DVD of a film that was released 6 months ago or 12 months ago, generally speaking, you'll pay over €20 for that. The selection will be very limited anywhere that sells them. Typically, you probably have to go somewhere like Amazon or an online retailer to actually order it in the first place. The other issue, the factor there is, I can understand why people would want for their favourite film to have it, because they maybe watch it 2 or 3 times a year, and it's that time of year again, and they go back and they can't find it anymore. I'm not one of those people. I will watch a movie maybe once, and I typically won't watch again, and I certainly won't watch a series again. Now, some people do. Some people they'll have a favourite series like The Wire or Yellow Jackets or whatever it is, Game of Thrones, and they like to watch it again. And it is much better to have a DVD box set in that instance. But again, you're talking probably about 1% at most of the market there. DVD sales aren't going to die, but they'll be so insignificant as not to be worth the while of most ordinary shops to sell them.
And that is absolutely the case. I found myself when I was going around town looking for people to speak on the matter. I don't think I encountered one shop where they had new DVDs on the shelves. It was the likes of shops that were selling them secondhand. I suppose on the matter of secondhand, what are the environmental implications for streaming? Because it's not maybe as clean as we all think. We think that it's very green, but there is actually some implications from streaming.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are streaming a Netflix movie in 4K, let's say, then there are different resolution qualities that you can choose. But that is going to take up a certain amount of bandwidth and data center activity, and that uses a certain amount of electricity. And it's not an especially green way to spend an hour or 2 hours of your time. Now, there are two balancing factors to that. The first is when you start to look at AI and ChatGPT and those services that many of us are starting to use sometimes daily, all of a sudden a Netflix movie doesn't actually look as environmentally bad. But that's still not a reason to consume a movie that way. I would, though, put the perspective in comparing it to a new DVD versus a second-hand DVD. If you go to a kind of a shop that sells old stuff and you buy a second-hand DVD there, that's a circular economy thing. It's going to be quite cheap, and that's a total win because there's no distribution impact. There's no footprint from an ecological point of view.
Yeah, it's already been made.
If you buy a new DVD, if you get it delivered from, the likes of Amazon or from an online retailer, first of all, it's not just the plastic and the materials that go up into making that packaging. It's the delivery cost. It's the course. And it's a similar situation if you're buying in a shop. If you're to do a like-for-like example, if you take a hit film and you compare the amount, the ecological footprint of that, streaming it versus buying it new, I think the impact of buying it in a physical format is still probably bigger than streaming it.
And paint a picture for us, for those who may be unfamiliar, of these data centres. They were saying that actually power the streaming. I think a lot of us pick up the remote. You might even have the button on the remote Netflix. And I don't know where we think these movies are coming from, but there is actually a big data centre somewhere, or even several of them around the globe, that are powering and generating this. And that is adding to, as we say, the environmental problems.
Yeah, so I remember a couple of years ago at one point, Netflix by itself was taking up something like 25 or 30% of all of the data streaming in Ireland between the hours of 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, because you're typically sitting down to watch something for an hour or 2 hours or maybe even 3 hours if you're binge watching something. And if you've got the 4K standard, you're paying for that, then and maybe you have it on even in more than one set in the house, or there are two people watching on different devices. That really, is far more bandwidth than, almost any other internet use. And that was up until AI came along. Now you've got situations where if you make an 8-second AI video with the likes of Google Gemini or ChatGPT, that is the equivalent of using a microwave oven for an hour.
Right.
For one little 8-second video. So again, you put it in perspective, but certainly don't be under any illusion that if you sit down for a night in front of the telly, if you decide to watch RTE, the Late Late Show, the 9 o'clock news, or the Traitors, or whatever they have on, that is a much, much, much more environmentally sound thing to do than watching 2 hours of Netflix.
And obviously that's watching live. But say if you're going to the player, the likes of your RTE or your Virgin Media player, would they be more environmentally friendly on a whole than your big conglomerates of your Netflix, your Prime, your Disney? Because I'm assuming they're going to be smaller data centres.
Yeah, well, the reason that they're more environmentally friendly is they're not as good. They're worse resolution and they're worse quality.
Which we've all encountered,
Yeah, which means that you don't need as much data per 10 minutes, per half an hour, per hour watching. Now, if you ask the ordinary person on the street, would you like to watch a glitchy, slightly fuzzier version of your movie, but you will you have a more ecological footprint? I don't know if you like the answer you'll get to that question.
Yeah, but you don't believe that we're going to see a revival, as you say, in DVDs in coming years in this streaming world that we find ourselves in. But what about other retro devices or other retro media? Do you see them maybe making a comeback, or are they on the rise?
Yeah. There are a couple that have definitely made a comeback so far in 2025. Anyway, if you go out and you see a bunch of what we call Gen Z folks, so let's say people between the ages of, say, a late teenager and, say, mid to late 20s, okay. That's typically Gen Z. Many times now you will see that cohort using quite an old-fashioned digital camera that's 10 years old or 15 years old.
Yes.
And there would be a Canon or a Nikon or a Sony, and it's maybe a couple of inches across. It has a screen on the back, and it has one of those little telescopic lenses that extends out. And it's a very old-fashioned looking device, and smartphones were supposed to kill them off completely. But what Gen Z are telling us is that, no, we're sick of the smooth AI look that phones are giving us. We're sick of taking 30 photographs when we should be taking one. We're sick of the pressure to post everything on Instagram immediately, and they're actually going back for a slightly more mindful experience with what are now, by 2025 or 2026 terms, old-fashioned digital cameras. So that is one thing that is definitely coming back. I mean, the likes of CDs aren't coming back, but vinyl has now established its own niche. It'll never be more than a niche. Most normal people don't buy vinyl records, but it's enough of a niche for a lot of stores to sell them now. So there is some retro trek that is popular.
Well, there you have it, folks. There is no official revival of DVDs on the horizon, and definitely the sale figures for new DVD purchases does not support the claim. But that's not to say you can't dust off your old DVD or even VHS player. As you heard there, it's a slightly more environmentally friendly way to spend your evening. Adrian, thank you for your time and expertise on the matter.
Thanks, Zoe.
That's it for me tonight, but I'll be back at the same time next week, embracing the concept of new year, new me, and looking to good environmentally friendly habits we can get into in the new year. Until next week, good night.